So I'm gonna continue what I was doing yesterday. I'm gonna stay for 2 hours here. Let me see something. Yeah, so yesterday I passed all the things through the VS Code, but I realized, and I should have done this before, but I realized that most of the stuff I could already see from the description of the thing. So it was completely unnecessary and not helpful at all. But at least some of them, there wasn't anything, any description or anything I could look at to see what it is. So it was not completely a waste of time, but what I should have done is just look at the line first before copying it, to see if I could just understand what it is by looking at the code. But whatever. So now what I think I'm gonna do is find these lines here on the code, and I'm gonna put console logs on them to see if I can understand what's going on. Now it's much better because I understand where each thing is at, and I have the list of the things. Oh, and some of the lines were weird, I guess. So I just put them on the exact line that it was on the description there, but some of them were a little bit weird. So I guess here I can console log these letters and start trying to parse this. The issue is I'm not sure how I can make it so I get all the information. Or if the information is gonna be the same each time. Maybe I should already start trying to modify the code and see what happens. I'm console logging E there on the options line, and this is what's showing up. So it's pretty much the same thing, it just exports. Same thing that I got when I console logged the first one. Oh, this, I didn't erase this. Or maybe it didn't save. Hmm. So let me see. And I'm pretty sure I erased that 40, line 48 stuff, but maybe I didn't. No, I didn't. I'm just gonna erase this for now. I'm gonna put the console log on the breaking points that I have here first and see what happens. So apparently it's not showing anything, which is really interesting. Shouldn't it show undefined for 118? Yeah, that's weird. Oh, there, I'm not in the right line as well. A T option. I don't know what it's 418 here. Should be 406. Some of the lines are off because I had comments on them on the page, and then I erased those comments, and then I didn't want to do everything again from scratch, so I kind of guessed the line based on the code and the description there. The option as boolean. Let's console log this one. Still nothing. Guess I'm gonna console log T. I should be activating this at some point in the code, I guess. Otherwise, what's the point of having this? It's supposed to be the options of the thing. I'm not sure though if they are the options of the network. I don't think they are, because on line 3000 and 4000 is more of the network stuff, so it's not showing anything. So maybe this is not used. I'm gonna console log T here. I think I'm gonna do it on all of them and see if any of them show up anything. If it is activating the function, it should show something. So, or maybe it's because here is just a definition. Yeah, but if this is called anywhere else in the code, then it's gonna run the function anyway. So, I guess, not sure. Yeah, now it's showing undefined. Oh, it's because I got the letter incorrect. And here should be I as well. Hopefully the network stuff's gonna be more interesting. Ah, so this is probably, yeah, it's probably changing the color for RGB, because I'm passing the color as this thing here for each node. So I think I'm gonna put a comment here. And it also loads up when the page loads. Some of them load earlier, some of them. I guess this is the number of times it was activated. Probably. That should be, probably this is the number of edges, this is the number of nodes. And the other ones I'm not sure. Or maybe it's because there are different nodes and edges. I think that's what's happening here. I could look at the code and see which ones are which, but I'm pretty confident that that's what's going on here. And it's interesting that the other ones are not showing anything. So it pretty much takes this, makes a regex, and then makes e.replace the this with the function, this function here. Yeah, hey Addison. What's going on, man? So I don't think that the other ones are showing anything. I think I'm just gonna move on to the network stuff. I'm not sure why though. I think maybe probably these are not options, the options for the network. But I don't really understand why they are here if it doesn't pass anything through them. Two lessons of what? So line 300, 3124. State give range. Maybe this one is interesting as well. Console log. Oh, maybe this part of the code is for the dot graph. That's why it's not being activated there. I think that's what's going on. So the initial part is probably the options for the dot graph. Let me console log this. Yeah, nothing. So I guess that's how it works. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense to have these functions here if they're not gonna do anything. And if they are doing anything at some point, then I should get at least something on console logging. At least that's what I assume should be the case. So now let me go to the line 3124. Yeah, this one. It's 23 actually. So here, oh, did I erase that stuff? I think I did, but 406. Yeah, no console logs here. Oh, it's interesting. Maybe it uses the same RGB to hex function for both dot and the other graphs, and that's why this one was activating and the other ones weren't. Yeah, because this doesn't have the option, so it's not a part of these ones. And it closes here. So it has both functions just in case. So you can put both options, RGB and hex, for the colors. And this parses the colors. Oh, actually, I have to think about this. I didn't realize. Because if I'm gonna change the color of the nodes, maybe. Yeah, but maybe the parsing is not that important actually. Maybe it is because it's gonna change through these functions. Oh, maybe not, because I can probably change something before this and just use whatever I'm using for the other colors. I think it's hex that I'm using, so I can just modify the function before and pass different colors in hex or something like that. But I'm not sure now. Yeah, I have to see. Let me go to the line 2000 something. 2123. So I think I'm gonna console log here. E and T, like the other ones. T equals Z. So options is probably T because of this. Use as field ID because these are options that field ID or ID. These dot options time. Dot time. So it's if all of this. I equals object dot keys. These options time. So it's iterating through the length of the objects of the options. And if so, if is this, then throw new error, and I guess this is for the overall function. So it always makes this dot subscribers goes empty object e and this dot add e. And I guess this add I've seen before. I had written down the thing there. It's one of the functions probably that does the add and subtract, if I remember correctly. Yeah, or prototype add. This is probably gonna add the nodes or the options. So let me go back first. So it's here. These are set options T. So T is probably the Why is that? Also, this function contains all the other functions. And this one is just this first one. It's so confusing. I think I did this one before. So it takes in all the nodes and edges on the as z, as the e argument, and clusters. These probably the options. So these are the nodes and these are the edges probably. Now I have to see what is et and I, the console log, outside of this function, the main one. Undefined, so t is undefined there. And goes in twice. So now I'm gonna put this here. Start with t, just because that's what I did before. An empty object. I think I'm gonna put comments on this stuff. The lines are gonna be off, the more comments I put, because it's gonna change obviously, but I don't think that's a problem. Because now I have comments already on all the spots that I've looked before. So it has this prototype with all this information. It seems to be this exports object, which is a function. I wonder if I can see what is this function, or if it is the one that I'm console logging. So it is this function here. So E is this function. T is an empty object, and I, let's see. I is T, O. Hmm. So I is a function. And I think I've seen this somewhere here. Maybe it was on the add stuff. Yeah. Or at the end of the loop there. Where is this? Pretty sure I saw something similar. I think it's on that. There are other set options. Is this one? So now the question is, should I put that as a commenter? Because I don't really understand what this is. How am I gonna access this? How can I know what the elements inside of this function are? I think it's like this. Maybe it's like this. I have to think about how I can access this O and this I inside of this function here. Maybe it doesn't matter that much. So well, here the E are the nodes and edges. The T I think was undefined or something like that. So it's gonna use this add to add the nodes. But I'm gonna console log here first, and then I'm gonna put comments as well. Yeah, so E. Now I'm gonna put T here. Undefined and ran twice. So I think I can erase this one, and now I'm gonna go through the add function here. But if t is undefined, then it's gonna add undefined to the set options stuff. First, I'm gonna go to the add, and then I'm gonna console log e here and t. So again, nodes and edges. I think I'm on the right one. Yeah, and so it's just taking the arguments from the dataset one, I think. I think I'm gonna put probably because I'm not 100% sure, but pretty confident that this is what's happening. Takes the arguments from dataset function. Probably. Thanks. And now, so I'm gonna make e equals nodes edges and t equals undefined twice. So let's think about this. Where IO equals this empty list and equals this. If array.isArray e for var s equals 0, r equals e.length. So it's gonna loop through the arrays of the nodes and edges. I equals n dot add item, and then it's gonna add the item to this instance here. 3000. Okay. So next function I'm gonna go is this one. And then I have to come back to the dataset one to see the set options stuff. And the only downside of doing that is that you lose track of where you were. Yeah, but here. I think it was here. So it's gonna it's gonna run this function for the instance here of n. And I is gonna be equal to this added e. So s is gonna be the indices. So it's gonna take each element of the array e with the index of each element, and it's gonna add to the I stuff, and then it's gonna push that to O. So I guess what's happening is transferring the nodes and edges to the O array, which is gonna be a nested list containing the clusters, both for nodes and edges. Thanks for the follow, Dmitry Maximov Galera. I'm not sure why this is not giving the alert sound. Should probably look at this later. So maybe I can console log here. Can console log O and console log I. So else if it's not instance of object. I don't understand this statement really well because E should be an array, maybe. So if it isn't an object, throw a new error and no data type. And then it does the same thing, pretty much. So I'm not really sure why it has this statement here. Probably because it expects an array, and then if it's not an array, it throws this error. But then why would add this stuff anyway? So I think I'm gonna console log here. I'm not sure if it's better to do it before or after, but and then I can take this off. Probably doesn't matter because it's gonna still read this. It's probably better to put here. Unexpected token else. Let me see if I erase this. Oh, it's probably because of this symbol here. Because this indicates the end of the thing. How it works. So let me... Oops. So the log... Oh. Now put here. Now it's probably gonna work. Yeah, there we go. Nice. But I don't really understand what this is because it doesn't seem to be the information of nodes and edges. Oh, here it reminds me of the nodes. So it has the index and the list. I'm console logging the O, I think. Yeah. So O is... So each instance of I is one of these, I think. And O is the whole thing. I guess. Maybe not, actually. Because each one of these is probably an iteration of the loop. Yeah, that makes more sense. So I is probably each node, and then O is the list containing each node. But I'm not really sure why it would do that. Because here, yeah. Oh, it's changing the index, I guess. I'm not really sure if these numbers here are part of the code or not, or just part of the console log. Because each time it goes through, it doesn't seem to be making a nested list. And there must be a reason for this. I think it's because of the indices here. Because of this ES here. Because you wanna put everything in one list, but it wants to keep the organization of clusters. I think that's why it's doing this. Otherwise, it would just use the original thing. Unless these numbers don't mean anything, but I'm pretty sure they do, probably. What I can do is change, actually. I can just erase that S and see what happens here. It's an idea as well. They all start from 0. Oh, but it's pretty much the same, actually. Because O just gets bigger and bigger each iteration, so it's pretty much the same object, so... scratch what I was saying before. I think it makes sense. So why would it do that? I'll look at the last one and see how many. Probably. Or maybe it's because he wants to add the nodes and edges in the same list. That's the only reason I can think of. And here it's weird because it doesn't seem like it's the nodes anymore. The way that it's written. So I'm not sure what's going on. There we go. But why? It's so weird. So it is a list of lists here at the end. Because otherwise it wouldn't work with the clusters to optimize the loading stuff. But why does it turn into these numbers here? Or these letters or whatever this is? I wonder if I can catch the moment where this happens. So here seems to be the nodes still. Maybe I should test this with a simpler network. It's just a few nodes that have things that are not related to coding, so I can easily see and differentiate. Yeah, now here's the transition. Interesting. And this seems to be something else. Has to be related to the nodes and edges. The length is probably the length of the nodes. So imagine it's something to keep track of all of them. I have no clue. I think what I'm gonna do is console log the I stuff. Yeah, this is probably worth spending a lot of time on because I think now I have a clear path actually. I can follow the things from there and do these console logs and then make these comments so I can unfold what's happening and to understand the flow of information. But I have to spend a lot of time on each one of them to decipher what the letters mean. So let me think here. Oh, another thing I can do is actually console log here as well to see if it's passing through this one. Yeah, so this one gives nothing, so I guess it makes sense because it's probably an array that the E is definitely an array or a multiple arrays, lists, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, but this is checking if it isn't instance of object, and if E is an array, it should pass this condition, but maybe not. Uh, I think I'm gonna search what is instance of, and I'm also gonna console log E actually first again, just so I make sure that it is what I'm thinking it is. Yeah, so it's a list of objects. Or maybe it's a list. It's a list of lists of objects. This is what's happening here. So it's a list of lists of objects. So that's probably the purpose, I think, of this add function. It's probably making it so it reorganizes this into a more better format. So now let me console log uh, this one. Oh, so the I is the stuff there. That's weird. Checking instance of. Instance of operator tests to see if the prototype property of a constructor appears anywhere in the prototype chain of an object. The return value is a Boolean value. If the prototype property of a constructor appears anywhere in the prototype chain of an object. Maybe I should do this object.getPrototype off. I think that's what I'm gonna do. It's probably the easiest to understand what's going on. Because I don't feel like reading that stuff. Uh, so where do I do it? It's not gonna hit this house block, so it doesn't make sense. Sure. Maybe I should do it like here. And then I'm gonna have to do this again. It didn't give me anything. Maybe if I change, yeah, if I do it up there. Yeah, there we go. So it gives this list with a bunch of things. Constructor array. I still don't get it though. Also, it is an instance of object, but I guess because the prototype of an array is an object. I think it's not that relevant actually to the stuff that I'm trying to do, so I'm not gonna spend a bunch of time trying to figure out. I should probably read the stuff though. So why is each node an edge here? Maybe this stuff is actually from the nodes themselves. But I don't remember really well. I don't think this one was supposed to have things to do with the code objects, because there were some graphs I made that were giving me something like this with weird numbers, but I don't think this was one of them. But it has to be this because it's the only thing that makes sense. There we go. The thing is, I don't want to take all the time to make another graph about something else. Then I have to think about what is the graph gonna be about. Yeah, but I don't think these things here are nodes. And if that's the case, it's kind of weird because when does this become something else? And dot add item. Oh, so it's calling this function. I should probably investigate this first. But first, let me console log what is ES. I think I can do it here. Not sure. If not, then I'll just move up as the first line. Yeah, so ES are the nodes and edges. I should probably put comments on this as well. First the nodes, then the edges. So I think what is happening is using this function to reorganize the structure there. So it has all of them in one list, but I'm still not clear on what exactly is the final one. Because I don't understand what is this I really want. So the first structure a list of lists that contain the nodes and edges objects. If I remember correctly. I guess I can console log O outside of here, so it's easier to understand. So it gives me the final thing instead of one for each iteration. Turn O.length and this dot trigger add items O. So it's gonna run this function with add and this dictionary. And maybe this is a callback. And then it's gonna return O as well. So how can I search for this one? First I'm gonna console log O here. Outside. Then let me look for stuff. Yeah, so it's just checking to see if it's an instance of object. So let me think about how I'm gonna search that. And maybe I should just do the pattern. Or maybe function calls with arguments. With this comma operator. Evaluates each of its operands from left to right and returns the value of the last operand. That's probably it's just a hard thing to think about the best way to search for what I actually want. You know, I know that the set timeout function and set interval have these commas, so you can probably search for them. But I want to know exactly what is. So what's the pattern here? It's the function, then comma. Oh no, it's returning. Also, it's gonna evaluate both and then return the t. Or return the o. Would be good if I could just step over the thing, just say. So there's two functions that I need to check inside of this, the add items and this trigger one. I'm just trying to think if I understand what this comma, this expression here is doing. Okay, I think this T is the first one, and this one. The thing is, the T is undefined in this situation that I'm doing, so it's hard to know because probably in other situations it's not gonna be undefined. So the deduction I'm doing here is that whenever it's not undefined, it's gonna return T instead of this dictionary. But then it returns O here at the end, so I'm not sure. Or just look at the other functions. So it is separated by edges and nodes still. But it's slightly different than before. Or maybe it's just the same thing. Oh, the nodes are actually different. Yeah, the nodes became this stuff here. And I guess the edges are slightly different as well. Because before they were objects and they had arrow and true. It was a different format, if I remember. So there's something really weird going on here that I don't understand. I have to look. It's probably I have to look in this add items now to see what it's doing. So first thing, console log E is probably gonna be the nodes, I assume, nodes and edges. Yeah, yeah. So it is in this format here, which is very different from the other one. It says these arrows, then the color wrong. True. It's just the object, and the other one is just the lines, I guess. And here at least doesn't look like there is any one of them that have that weird stuff there. Those letters and so let me read about what this is doing. D equals E this dot build ID, another function. So I should probably write this one down on the spreadsheet. Actually, I'm gonna go back to the other one. And I'm gonna write all of this down in the main spreadsheet that I'm using so I don't lose track of. I'm gonna put the connection between them. I think it's 3123. Just so I remember what flow I'm going through. So this one, then I paused on this. I think, yeah, it's on this. From dataset. Line 2006. Hold on. Proto type add from o dot prototype dot add. I went through the 350 o dot prototype add item. No, I think when I go through this one, I think it's intuitive this to understand, but I'm still wanna look at the function or whatever this is. Just gonna create an instance of E with the ID of each one and make it equal to T. Probably. If void 0 different than T, so if T is not false, I assume. If this dot data T to anywhere cannot add item with ID plus T plus already exists. So checking to see if the ID exists already. if I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do, I'll probably have to change these functions here. Maybe not change them, but I need to figure out a way to track. Yeah, it's probably really important to understand this transition because I want to figure out a way to track the nodes in the final result of the thing. So I can access them and do whatever I want without losing the sequence in which they were created. So I think every time there is a node with the same ID, it doesn't go through the whatever process is doing here. D equals s dot random u ID 1516. So no definition. That's weird. There's also no curly braces here. So is making it equal to this, whatever this is. Oh. S equals I1. I is probably a function. Oh, why is this function here? So space is calling this function with 1. Hmm. How can I say? I is the function. No, it's not this one. 3-1 teacher. Hmm. And desire is probably the same thing. Just calling with a different number. I'm not sure why though. Just putting this in different indexes. Yeah, it's gonna return io.exports. It's gonna export whatever index this has. The issue here is that I need to figure out how I can follow this I inside of this function. So I know what is being exported here. It's probably a list or something like that. Because I know there always the number there. Because it's being passed as an argument. But I don't know where this I comes from. Maybe I should just console log this thing here. That's an idea. Console log s. And that way I'm gonna know. So probably gonna do this now. I don't remember if I... Oh, I have to... Here, maybe? Why doesn't this work? Interesting. Hmm. Maybe it breaks the flow of the thing? Not sure. Or because I'm trying to console log a function and it doesn't work? Yeah, that's probably why. Because I imagine that I could do that because it would return the... It would console log the return of this function here. But apparently I cannot. So where was I before? I think I'm gonna go back to the place I was. It was on this add item. So uh, this is weird as well because it doesn't have a definition. And I'm pretty sure it's not something from JavaScript. Maybe it is. V4 UID is a cryptographically secure random number generator. A DOM string containing a randomly generated 36 character long V4 UUID. Huh. Oh, so this is probably what the I is. Now it makes sense. Huh. That's why I'm getting those letters and all this stuff. Also the log. Okay. There we go. Yeah, that's the thing. But why do that? It's kind of weird. Maybe we should keep track of it somehow. It's very weird, this, the way that they wrote this. I have the feeling that they did this on purpose to make it harder to understand what's going on, but I'm not really sure why. And if that's really the case, so it's gonna create this random stuff and it's gonna, so it's probably because of this check here. Because otherwise there is no point in doing this. So the standard is T is gonna grab the field ID. I also didn't see what the field ID is. So it's just the ID of the data set. But this is inside this if statement here. And here it is looping through the object on these options type, which is this T here. It should be undefined here. Yeah, it's giving it undefined. So it's gonna be an empty object, but what if I console log this? I don't understand why this doesn't work. Maybe I have to do it on a different line. Because the comma is here. I don't get it. And if I do it outside here, it doesn't show anything. But here is also setting options T. And T is supposed to be undefined. I'm not sure. So I forgot where I stopped here. Probably on this. So maybe I should console log what is t here. Because I imagine it is the IDs of the nodes. It's not showing anything. Oh, there we go. Yeah, it's just the node IDs. And all of the node IDs. And then there's, oh, maybe this is just the edges actually, because 5,000 is undefined. So these are the IDs of the edges. Oh yeah, this is where I stopped. Went through this thing here. But maybe it's not this thing exactly that the field ID is. Or maybe I'm confusing the edges and the nodes. But it doesn't make sense. Oh, actually, because I'm not sure which one is supposed to have more. Maybe there's more edges than the nodes, but yeah, that doesn't make sense actually. Oh, actually it does, because if only one node has more connections, then it's gonna have more edges than nodes. So maybe I'm confusing which ones are the edges and which ones are the nodes. Because the edges don't have ID, then it returns undefined. If void 0 different than t, this dot data. So it's this empty object here. It's also difficult because it's not necessarily going to be an empty object. It probably iterates through all these functions, and it might change the state of that stuff there. I guess I can put console logs there as well, just see. Or maybe here. Console log. Okay. I'll actually erase this one. So now it doesn't work. Maybe I did something wrong here. Yeah, it doesn't work. It's just gonna be the same thing. So it is hitting that block there. Uh, this dot data. The thing though is that I wanna see what is, or maybe I should just console log here. instead. Because I want to see what is this undefined. It's not showing anything else. So if it's not undefined, it's gonna throw there. And that's why it's not throwing. So I guess it's gonna hit this block as well. And it's gonna make the t equals s dot the random stuff. And e does this dot field id equals t. So now it plays into part the thing about programming where it's referencing, not making it equal. And I have to remember how it works. So I think this thing is now being referenced to t in memory. Then t references this, and this references t. So I'm not sure if this changes the value of t, or if it just makes this point to t. No, but when I console logged, it was the random stuff. It's this part here that is confusing. So I guess it's making t reference this part here. But I don't understand why make it. Oh, it's probably because of the check here. That's why it has this first one. I think that's what's going on. But then why not just check for e dot this dot field? Maybe it's easier to do it like this. Then after it hits the block, makes t equals to this random stuff, and then makes this the IDs, the random stuff reference the IDs. Let's see if I can put a console log here. Yeah, so it's the random characters, and I'm gonna see if I can also log this one. It's also the random characters. So then it's gonna make var io n equals empty object. R equals object dot keys e. So E is still the list of the nodes and edges with the objects. And just this one is the IDs. Which are now equal to this random number. For I equals 0, O equals R dot length. So Just looping through the objects. And looping through the amount of keys that E has. Var A equals R I. So making, maybe I should do a console log. Oh, not sure if I can, but I must be typing it the wrong way or something. Oh, there we go. There we go. So let me think. What is R here? It's the keys. Just making A equals to each key. H equals this dot type A. So I should probably console log H instead. Maybe I'll do it after this. I don't get the way that this was written. So weird. Console log H maybe. Now what is N? Oh, it's here. So this object with the key Ri is the keys of E. Why not make E equals be far easier to understand, I think. Let's see what's this time. It's empty object. Just making H equals an object with the key of E. And then making N of A, which is the key of E. And this object here is equal to S dot convert. What is S? Oh, S is the function there. Up top. Hmm. So S equals to this, and to the I, the exact function. And then it's doing the convert EAH. It's converting EAH to type H. Did you see what this H is? H is not defined. Oh, now it works. So just a bunch of undefined. Do NA stuff. Did I add this? Yeah. If this thing add item. So now convert. No definition. So maybe it's a JavaScript thing. I should just probably look at the documentation. JavaScript. I think I have it here. Yeah. Maybe it's not a JavaScript thing. I don't see why it wouldn't be actually, because there's no definition. And how is it accessing a function with the dot notation? Maybe that's normal. Hmm. Some sort of parsing that is going on here that I don't understand really well. So I think I remember seeing something similar to this when I was just starting to investigate this library with these numbers and these Boolean values here in the shape. And then at some point it becomes this. I guess it's just adding that random string there into each object. I'm getting tired already, not gonna lie. At least I'm making progress though. So it's doing this convert on this thing. I need to understand what this convert is. That's what I need to do. Don't know why this is. Fucking Google. I hate when they put stuff in a different language without asking you for it. There we go. So annoying. So the references are here. Thing is, I've seen other stuff on that page that didn't have any reference, and I don't think that it is from JavaScript, unless I'm missing something. But there might be something else going on that I just don't understand. It's probably not gonna. Also, I think I'm gonna console log as here. Let's see if it's possible to do that. Oh, so I am getting stuff. Oh, so this is probably the properties on the data set there. Because each one had, there was those objects there. So I'm not sure if this is a list or not. Let's loop through this. And it's converting the S into this N A here. So let me do it this outside of here. If I put both at the same time, it's gonna be too much. Too many things. Then returns this dot data t equals n, which is this object. Which is probably gonna be, yeah, an object with all this stuff converted from mass. And t was the IDs. So I think this is changing the IDs from whatever it was to this random number, this random string here. Then it returns this, the data, makes the data of t equals this. Increases the length. Not sure of what exactly. The instance, but what is referring to. And then t. It's referring to this. I guess this is works kind of like a class in Python, and these are the constructors. And that's what's going on here. This is the main constructor of the class, and the other things are the methods, and then the methods are changing stuff on the constructor. That's what I assume is happening here. Yeah, this is the class. This is the class. This is the constructor. That's probably what's going on. And the other things are methods. I think it's becoming a lot more clear to me how it works. Then that stuff is gonna come back and become this I here. Oh, so E is a nested list, so it's passing each cluster into this add item function, which is parsing this stuff. And then it's pushing that to O. So it's making one list out of all those clusters because of that. Then this changes the ID. It loops through that cluster, converts this. Yeah, the only issue here is that this I is not really clear to me because it is a function that is an argument of the other function. And I haven't explored what that function does. So I don't understand really well what the S is. I can see through here the result, but I'm not sure what it's doing exactly. Is this object with the properties here? Yeah, probably has all these properties. So imagine the I is the thing that updates the state of the whole data set. And then S is calling I with a number. Yeah, I'm not sure. It's kind of confusing. Because it's hard to keep track of what each thing is. And the E are the nodes. A is the RI here. And R is the object's keys. Maybe we should console log R to see. I imagine it's gonna be the keys of each object in the list that is passed as Z. I think E is a list, but maybe we should console log that as well. Yeah, so it's gonna return the list with the keys. And I think there are more edges than nodes from this. Let me see what is E here. Yeah, so it's gonna loop through these lists. Oh, but first. So the thing that is hard here is to understand if R is the whole thing or each instance. I think it makes more sense to be running multiple times. Yeah, but this is before the loop. But I guess it gets called multiple times, the function. That's the thing. Because add item is being called in the loop of the other function. So we're gonna have a bunch of E's. Each time it gets called, it's one of these, which is this list with the thing. So E is gonna be probably each node or edge one at a time. That is passed through this, or the list of nodes and edges for the clusters. And then R is gonna be that thing, that list with the keys. And it's gonna loop through the list. And it's gonna make A equals each item in that list. So A is each key item in the list with each key for each list of nodes and edges. And age is going to be the type of A. And then it's going to convert A, convert the element of each key. So it's accessing the what each key represents in the dictionary. And it's converting that to the type of A on this S here. So S is probably the state of the data set. So it's updating the state with this conversion here and making this equal to this NA. Which is the object with the updated thing. Maybe this is calling recursively here because it's returning T. Not sure. Yeah, so E are the objects. So it receives one object at a time and it converts that into a list of keys for that object. And then loops through the list. So I think I'm gonna make a comment here of the explanation. So I remember later. Receives one node or edge at a time. Then gets one node object. Gets keys. Of object into list. Then converts them, I think. Let me go back again here. A is each item in the list with each key for each list of nodes and edges. Converts the value of the edge node or edge object ensure its type and makes other empty object with that conversion. And that makes the ID equals to the whole object. Then makes the data ID, because T is this, first is random number, then becomes the ID of E. Equal to makes another object, not empty object. That makes the data ID equal to that new object. Now I just need to understand what this conversion means. What's this return means? I guess I understand what's going on now. It's making a new object to reference the type of what each thing is. and it's probably to differentiate the strings from numbers or objects inside of the node and edges thing. But I'm not sure yet what the purpose of that is, and neither if this return function is recursive. I don't think it is. I think it makes more sense that the other function is calling this one several times. So yeah, and it's probably it is a method of the overall thing because of this prototype probably. Then it makes this property of the class, this data property of the class for each instance of the nodes here, the clusters, the IDs, equals to the other object. So it's making a map, let's say, I think, and then increases the length for some reason, and returns t as well, which is this stuff, the IDs, probably to use on the other function. But I still don't understand why some of them are the IDs and some of them are the random number. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Maybe it's because they're not hitting this block here. Yeah, that's probably what's going on. Whenever it doesn't hit the block, it becomes just the ID. But when it hits the block, it converts from the ID to this random string here. And that's the purpose of the function, I think. I think I understand now what's going on. So whenever there is a new node, it's gonna create a random number to that node. It's gonna get the types of the properties of the keys, and it's gonna attach to a new object, which is a property of the class. And if the node already exists, then actually it's the other way around. Let me think. But if void's 0 different than t, this should always sit there. Unless it doesn't have an ID. But you need to create IDs to create the nodes. So if the property already exists inside the class of data t, which is this one here, that is making at the end. Cannot add item with ID already exists. Oh, this, no, this is here. I don't understand why this else doesn't have curly braces here. It's weird. I'm pretty sure I haven't changed that. I guess I'll look into this another time because I'm already past 2 hours. But I really want to know what's going on because I think I understand now what's happening inside the function. It's just this last thing that I don't get of why sometimes it has the ID and sometimes it has the random number. It has to be because it's hitting this block here sometimes and sometimes it's not. So it just T becomes this default thing here, which is the ID. But then it would break because uh, N wouldn't have a definition if it didn't pass through this statement. Because N is created here. So it always has to pass through this else block here. Unless the ID already exists, then it's gonna throw an error. It's probably gonna break the function and go to the previous one. Or even break the code, but never happens, so. I think I'll leave this stuff for tomorrow. That way it's kind of good because it's gonna be in the back of my mind. And yeah. I think it's a technique that I've seen somewhere where they say that if you want to learn something, you should pause in the middle of it because then your mind keeps working at that thing in the background because it's like an unfinished process. So I think I'm gonna do that today and then probably 2 days from now or some other time I'm gonna continue to explore this by doing these console logs and uh, understanding one function at a time, which I think I understand a lot better now than I did when I started. And once I understand the full picture of the thing, or at least I have the sense of what's going on, then I'm gonna modify these functions, and I'm gonna have to think about how I'm gonna modify them to achieve what I want to achieve. So yeah, see you.